Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Here we are with the latest indie fighting game released today, and that is Blazing Strike. Now, you might think to yourself, wait a second, Blazing Strike, have I heard that before? And yes, you have, over the years. Blazing Strike is an indie fighting game that's long been in development, storied even, perhaps you could say, right? And it is now finally out after many years. And this is a fighting game very much in, I guess you would call, the classic style. Not only is this, 2D fighter, proper fighter, right? This also is very much, pixel art fighters. No 3D models here. Everything is hand-drawn pixel art. And a lot of it is very well done. So now, that kind of said, right? Let's get into the game. What is this game exactly? Well, as you can see here, very much a classic 2D fighter, right? Just by the look of it before we even get into anything else. And yes, it's got a lot of the fixins. It has, like, say, a proper arcade mode. It has a proper story mode. Now, just by the look of the game, you might be like, well, okay, it's got a little bit of, like, a cyberpunky aesthetic, just given the background. Some of the characters definitely have, like, a cyberpunky techno vibe. I will say, without giving too much of the story away, the main story mode plot, like, just the base premise as you go in, is one of the most insane I've seen, like, in any game. Normally, in a fighting game, right? Oh, XYZ here to fight. There's probably some kind of martial arts tournament. But, like, usually it's the basics, right? Fighting games aren't, like, they're not getting too in-depth for the most part. That's just how it is. That's fine. This game opens up with, yo, we found God. Like, capital G God. And the world's kind of messed up and we really need him to help. And then when they went to God, God was angry and destroyed Earth even more than it already is. And was basically only saved by the return of Neo Jesus. Like, but as premises go, especially for a fighting game, I think that one's pretty alright, honestly. So yeah, not too bad, right? That sounds pretty interesting. It certainly floored me when I first started reading it. Maybe the presentation isn't the most AAA, but it is an indie developed game, right? So not exactly the biggest budget. Got to do with what you got to do with, right? So as far as the main game goes, 4-button game. We got light punches, we got light kicks, we got heavy punches, we got heavy kicks, right? The big differentiator here between like this and like the average 2D fighter is what we call the rush button. And the rush button, well, it lets you rush around. So on top of the 4 main buttons, rush button, you can consider that kind of like the 5th button, I guess. And it modifies a lot. It modifies basic movement, like forward and rush is a straight up run, back and rush is your backdash. And also it modifies quite a few of the attacks. Like say, hey, crouch heavy punch. Sure. And crouch heavy punch, special cancelable because, fighting game, all that kind of stuff. But if I were to hit the rush button and down heavy punch at the same time, it completely changes the move. It turns it into an EX move and turns it into a knockdown. And this is the case for basically everyone in the cast. Some people have more, some people have less EX moves. But generally, rush button plus another button on top of like the usual rush stuff can also change properties of moves. And here's where things get more fun yet, because rush... Hey, are you a fan of El Fuerte in Street Fighter 4? Because rush turns everybody into El Fuerte. Because you can rush cancel basically any given normal. So if I do, say, stand heavy punch, I can rush cancel out of that, and I can take my single hit and turn it into a combo string. And for some characters, this is actually very effective. So someone like Alexander here, if you can get the first hit in, you can then go run cancel into a second heavy punch and then special cancel that. And he can kind of turn into like a baked-in combo, right? So it's actually really interesting. That's character to character. But what is universal is the rush button also changes base moves, right? So here's like, say, lighter punch or light kick, right? And light punches and light kicks do have a little bit of a chain built into them. So we can hit them twice before we go into whatever. And then so you could also special cancel them as well. If you happen to be holding on to rush instead, it'll change your moves into like, well, different kinds of chains. And the real beauty here is you can actually go into your light chains into the rush light chains. So say I go light kick, and then hold rush, and then go into more light kicks, right? So instead of, either one of these separately being a 2-hit combo, I can make this a 4-hit combo, then special cancel and go out from there. So actually, It's pretty easy to work with. Certainly easier than like, you know, run canceling your normals, which may be a bit of advanced ask for a beginner, right? But it just basically extends your combo structure and makes everything work out pretty easily. So you can work out this kind of logic that like literally all characters have very strong hit confirms. Because you can just get your initial hit confirm, then go into your rush lights, and get even better hit confirms, just kind of go from there. And of course, some of the basics, like literally everyone has super moves. You have a super bar for a reason, right? They all work out different ways. It's fighting games. We have all sorts of archetypes here. Like the last character, Alexander, the big guy, unsurprisingly, is the grappler. Someone like Mochizuki here, very much on the zoner, you know, limb zoner sort of territory. Has lots of annoying full screen options, lots of annoying movement. Lots of characters have unique traits to them based off of the rush button. Like usually it's as simple as like a double tap and then you get something. For someone like him, it gives them all sorts of weird teleport and screen options. Someone like MJ, who's very much like in the kind of rush down vein of things here, very aggressive characters. Hers is just an actual straight up unblockable attack. You know, doesn't do a lot of damage in and of itself, and, you know, drains a fair amount of gauge, but keeps with the rush down theme of, you know, leaving the opponent always on defense. If you block too much, well, then you get opened up. So everyone's got their own unique stuff, right? And the cast in general is pretty cool. There's some unique designs here, like Pink. Pink has like a chainsaw sword gun. So I can do some fun things like shotgun blasts, you know, big old rocket uppercuts, but you always got to kind of rev her up because each major use of the moves takes some of your bar as well, right? So it's something you got to just kind of babysit over the course of the match, which I think is actually kind of interesting. Conversely, like the other character, Oro, is another big boy here. Lots of tossing people around, and he knows how to use all four of those arms for sure. He's an interesting character. The roster basically has something for everyone in terms of either aesthetic or just, you know, a lot of the classical fighting game archetypes are for the most part represented as you would think here. We got a good amount of characters, and once again, all really well done. Like a lot of people always argued, oh man, over the years, we really want that classic pixel style back. Yo, this game is exactly that, right? So basically, it's a fun classic fighting game romp in a very retro style. Now, one thing to note about the game specifically is there is a couple issues right now. I did play the game before in an earlier version, and there's been a lot of changes since then. But some things are still a little rough. I'm sure will be fixed, but I guess I'd be remiss if I don't mention it. Like little things like, say, Alexander here against Pink specifically. Crouch heavy punch, right? Sure. What about crouch heavy punch? Well, if Pink is specifically in the corner, it can't hit her. A little bit of a hitbox, hurtbox issue here. Can hit her just fine outside of the corner, can't hit her in the corner. And the character Jake may or may not kind of have a bit of a jab infinite, and it's not too difficult of one to do. But that's life, right? Will be patched, I'm very sure. Now, so for some other things, the online. So unfortunately, I don't have any online footage for you. I did have a build just before launch, but I was in Quebec for Canada Thanksgiving, and the times I could check, I couldn't get any matches going. That said, though, thank God, we're in the age where online is mostly a solved issue. Like, yo, it has rollback netcode. I'm sure the online will work just fine. So if you're looking for a bit of a classical throwback style, you know, to the older days of fighting games in that classical 2D pixel art style, this game is it. It has a lot of the classic flavor and with some unique stuff. Once again, that rush mechanic, the fact that, you know, lets everybody run, lets everyone do unique things, gives everyone some unique attacks. And just the fact that it lets you basically like run cancel everything. And for some characters, that's a very big deal, right? Very cool. That's very different. It gives a level of freedom that a lot of fighters don't have, especially because, while yes, it is tied to a gauge, when it comes to stuff like this, it is not the strictest. It does not use much gauge, so I think that is pretty cool. The game is live right now, as of today, out on multiple systems, out on Steam, PlayStation, I believe Switch as well. So if any of this sound interesting, hey, give it a shot. Once again, this isn't exactly a Mortal Kombat budget, right? But the heart is there, and that's what's important. And for some of the rougher patches, I'm very sure it'll be patched out in time. And my friends, that is Blazing Strike. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.